The refugee crisis is a classic case where public and private sectors have to work together. If you think about the situation in Lebanon or Jordan, countries like that desperately need investment not just from the public sector to build infrastructure for the immediate needs of schooling or healthcare that arise when 1 million refugees arrive, but when refugees stay for years, which they now do, the case for them to be able to work is very strong indeed, and that's obviously very difficult for countries. But unless they're given an economic chance, refugees, then they're going to end up fleeing to countries in Europe in enormous numbers, which is what's happened in Europe over the last year. For the refugee crisis was reached by two factors. One is that the war without law inside Syria, the war of barrel bombs, the war of ISIS now, is leading literally millions of Syrians to believe that they have no future in their own country. And so the failure to staunch the flow inside Syria, to staunch the war inside Syria, has been the first driver of the kind of crisis that we're suffering from at the moment. The second has been the failure to support the neighboring states. 2 million refugees in Turkey, 1 million refugees plus in Lebanon, 650,000 refugees in Jordan. Those countries haven't been able to hold all those people on their own, and for obvious reasons people have decided that without healthcare, without education for their kids, without economic opportunity, they're going to flee to Europe. I think that the typical Fortune 500 CEO is increasingly recognizing that humanitarian questions aren't divorced from questions of political stability or of economic growth. The fact that there are 20 million refugees around the world today, 40 million internally displaced, is an economic risk as well as a political risk. And so I think the far-sighted CEOs who are at this conference, who are coming to the humanitarian hub that has been established for the first time in Davos, are asking, what can my employees do? Can they be mentoring refugees who are arriving, whether in Europe or in the US? What can our companies offer in terms of expertise about the way in which humanitarian organizations can work? And of course there's the traditional emphasis on corporate social responsibility, and what I always say to people is you should be asking for corporate social results, not just corporate social responsibility. And so I hope that the CEO is recognizing that all the measures of CEO trust now ask that they speak about social issues, not just economic issues. I think when you ask what's the bigger risk, economic or political, the answer is that you can't separate the two. Because politics has an economic risk, and when economics goes wrong, that has political risks associated with it. And the point that I always make to people is that the humanitarian risks go alongside the political and the economic, because traditionally people have thought political instability leads to humanitarian crisis. In today's world, humanitarian crisis leads to political risk and political instability.